Okay, hello everybody, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. To introduce ourselves, I'm Kerry Gould, Associate Director on the Business and Corporate team at Speed.
And I am Rebecca Broomfield, and I'm a Director heading up the Consumer and Hospitality team at Speed.
And together we are leading the charge on measurement within the agency. It's something we take really seriously as members of AMEC, the industry body, which is the Association of Measurement and Evaluation in Communications. I'm AMEC certified and part of the AMEC Common Ground Group, which is it's an initiative really, it's a collection of agencies across the world whose task is to really share best practice, learnings, and basically help the industry to up its game, whether you're starting out in your measurement journey or quite sophisticated. We've got a mixture of people here today. Some people are PR specialists, others more broad marketeers with a PR remit. Some clients of Speed, some not, but hopefully, we hope there'll be someone in here. There's something in here for everybody. What we'll do today is we'll cover I'll kick off with really why measurement is such a challenge, and share some tips on how you can embed measurement when you're developing your PR and content strategies. And then we'll hand over to Becky.
Yes, and my role today, working with Kerry, is as the lead of the team that have developed our new proprietary measurement tool, PACE. So once Kerry's talked to you a little bit about why we believe measurement's so important, some trends and innovation in the industry, I'm going to step in and talk to you about the practicalities of how you can apply some of that thinking to your own work and how our tool PACE can help. So before we get going, just a couple of housekeeping points. There is the facility as part of the webinar to post questions. Just for flow, I think what we'd like to do is come to those questions at the end. So do take advantage of that facility and post your question as it comes to mind. And then when we reach the end of the presentation, we can go through those in turn. But without further ado, I'll hand over to Kerry and we'll get started.
So why does measurement matter? Really, it's what we're seeing is that it's helping comms and PR be recognised at the top table, which ultimately helps us to do more great work. So, by proving the impact that our campaigns are making to the businesses or organisations' bottom line, that helps to get buy-in much broadly beyond your marketing team to the leadership, and helps to get the budgets that we need to be able to do more great work. I think particularly, the way that sales and marketing teams are increasingly coming together, and as the lines are blurring between brand awareness and sort of lead and customer generation, it really helps to by showing the sort of commercial difference that PR activities are having, helps to strengthen those relationships, and it's seen as very much a two-way street in terms of us supporting sales teams' efforts, and then equally them supporting us with the data that we need to be able to measure the impact. And I think finally it's around providing learnings for continual improvement. PR and content strategies are moving much more towards a test and learn model that's become very common in digital and tech. So, if you realise that something isn't working, you can tweak it and it stops resource being wasted. So it's not just about doing the work and then marking your homework at the end. It's actually about reviewing it as you go. I think particularly as PR has evolved, it's become a lot more multi-channel, as we know. It sits a lot more closely to digital marketing, which is much more measurable. So the two disciplines are often reported alongside each other. So part of our intention is how do we make that process slicker and easier. And I think it's fair to say that the PR industry historically has struggled. There's loads of data out there that show that it's always making the top three sort of biggest challenges that marketers face. Cision's global research report said that 63% of people said that was one of their top three challenges. examples here showing it's often making PR Week's sort of most read stories lists. Textbooks have been written. There have been academic studies from universities around that shine a light on the shortcomings. So the stat there, sort of 3/4 of marketers are monitoring their campaigns but not really thoroughly evaluating them. And I think the reason why that is that it often falls into the sort of too difficult bucket. But the reality is that the industry and the practice risks being overshadowed if it can't show its worth. So in terms of the evolution over time, the industry has come a long way from when many of us started our careers and much earlier. Back from the early 90s when, clippings books on thudding onto coffee tables was the common form of measurement, and AVEs, which is advertising value equivalents, calculating the equivalent to how much a paid sort of advert would be in a print magazine. It's come on a long way, and I think what really prompted that was back in 2010 when the Barcelona principles were created, and we'll come on to more detail on those in a moment. They've been since updated to include more sort of sophistication with social, and pretty much every year since then, AMEC, as I mentioned, the industry body, has launched new tools and resources for marketers to be able to better evaluate their comms campaigns. So Barcelona principles, I think. Again, I hear various stories about how familiar people are with these. It seems to be hit and miss as to how much they're being communicated. But the three that really jump out to me, I think, are the focus on outcomes and not just outputs. So it's not just about how many press releases you've written, how many tweets you've posted. It's actually how many people have engaged with the messages you put out, and how people have been influenced. What behaviour has it really changed? AVEs are very much the banned word in the Barcelona principles. To be an approved member of PRCA, the industry body for PR's measurement champions, the first thing they ask you is, do you use AVE? And if the answer is yes, you're out of the club. It's very much trying to correlate the value of a PR campaign, particularly and media coverage online in particular, is really, it's an arbitrary figure, but its intention is well-meaning in that it's come as a need to show financial value, to be able to show your CFO, well, actually, what has this work done for us as a business? So, it is amazing that there are still a lot of organisations that do still use them, despite it being a bit of a dirty word in the industry, but very much part of AMEC's purpose is to really stamp it out and show that there's a much better and more credible way to measure the work that we do. And I think the third one really that jumps out here is around the effect on organisational performance. So, whether you're a retailer, it's a number of sales, or you're an NHS trust and it's about stopping smoking rates, membership numbers for an association. The only reason why any PR takes place is to make a positive difference. So that's what we want to measure. So what it does mean in today's very data-rich world is that there is loads that you can measure in PR campaigns and relating to pick up PR campaigns. In developing our tool, we built a measurement bank of sources with 68 different options of things you could measure. And I think particularly online media is more trackable than ever. Google Trends, for example, can share free search data over time, whether that's for your company's brand name or the services that you want to offer. It can help you understand what sort of terms and topics the audience is searching for to help you sort of further optimize your campaigns and inform the plans for the future. Google Analytics, is really our best friend when it comes to actually looking at how PR campaigns can really impact on businesses' websites. for many businesses now, their website is their shop window, and it can really indicate how many people are showing interest in your business, making inquiries directly to you, and being able to go in and dive in and look at where the sources of traffic are coming from, the numbers, any correlations around when they're happening in relation to campaigns that you're launching, can be a really useful indicator of behaviour that is being driven as a result of the messages that you're putting out there. And then, there's a raft of your own channel analytics. As we know, LinkedIn, Twitter can provide really, really useful metrics on how much click-through rates how much people are actually engaging with the content that you're putting out there. And there's also other tools that you can use which are paid for services, and we use as an agency things like Pulsar for social listening, which can pick up where your brand is getting mentioned on social channels and where your content is being sort of linked to by influencers. Moz is an SEO tool that can tell you the domain authority of media outlets, so that can help you dictate whether your SEO efforts are working and help you with tiering the media outlets and where to focus. But with all that data, it does mean that it could be quite overwhelming. So where do you start? How do you prioritise? And really it comes back to the very beginning when you're setting objectives for your campaigns. And really it's about making sure that we're including measurement as part of that from the very beginning. So what do we want to do, by how much, and when, really is what it comes down to. So we've got a couple of examples there of objectives that you could set for your campaign. The first on the left is quite basic and what we would not advise using, whereas on the right is a lot more specific. It really sets out who you're trying to reach, what you're asking them to do, and by how much you set benchmarks on what a normal campaign looks like, and then when you want to have achieved it by. So that really makes help reporting back to your business and your stakeholders really clear if you set that up front. And I think we've all been guilty of it when you're very excited to get a campaign underway and get it launched and get going to race ahead, but actually getting these foundations right from the very beginning and actually agreeing what you want to set out to measure is really important. So in terms of what you measure, there's a number of different ways depending on what your objectives are, and what we thought was helpful is to sort of lump them into different areas depending on what your objectives are. So if you've got a very clear lead generation remit to your campaign, the idea is to bring in new customers, then metrics around website conversions, number of sort of gated content downloads that gives you gives you customer data that can feed directly into your CRM systems, newsletter sign-ups to get people regularly wanting to hear from you, number of marketing qualified leads, for example. Brand awareness, it's about looking at rating the quality of media coverage as well as the quantity, looking at things like branded search volumes, using Google Keyword Planner, brand recognition surveys. A nice hack that I think is quite helpful on brand recognition surveys. Some businesses do them, and if you've got the budgets to do them, they're brilliant to be able to gauge how much your brand is known and what it's known for in market, but they can be really expensive and run into sort of thousands and thousands of pounds. One tip I quite like is that if you're commissioning research as part of your PR campaign, tagging a question or two onto the end that gauges brand recognition, awareness of the company in association to the service you want to promote. By doing that regularly at different points in the campaign, you can gauge over time how much that's changed, and it's basically a free way of doing a brand recognition survey. I think there's other options there around, depending on your remit, customer advocacy, if that's a brief, if that's your objective, things like net promoter scores and how much those have changed over time, product reviews, Trustpilot scores. These are all things that can be overlaid, again, finding correlations between your PR campaign and the impacts that have been in these different areas. So, and finally, employee engagement, staff surveys, if that was a big remit, social media interaction with campaigns on LinkedIn. it's about, you can't do all of this stuff, so it's about choosing, we tend to recommend choosing the 4 or 5 strongest metrics that really link back to what you want to achieve with your campaign. But there are some hurdles which Becky can take you through now, which we can hopefully find some solutions to.
So the challenges that we've listed here are ones that we hear time and time again when we're working with clients. So just to go through these in turn, lack of team buy-in can be really dispiriting when you're really trying to get some decent, tangible measurement in place against your PR campaigns. And this can come down to sales teams holding the data that you need to look for that correlation, or it could come down to a senior management team who are obsessed with just landing print coverage and aren't actually bothered about much more than the number of pieces of national print coverage achieved a month. So one of the steps that we recommend that can really help address this is by developing an internal charter which very clearly signposts the benefits of measurement for your business, a list of promises that you will commit to, and then what you see the benefit of that piece of work being. Helping establish measurement champions across the business can also be really powerful, particularly where you've got teams who aren't engaged that much in the journey, by asking them to be part of the team working on moving forward in this. So potentially someone in a sales team can help you overcome that hurdle quite easily. The second challenge that we hear quite often is, well, I just don't have any data. How am I actually going to tangibly prove impact if I don't have anything to back it up? And I think the data sources that Kerry has just talked through clearly demonstrate that actually there's so much free data available today that really doesn't stack up anymore. Even if you just start with your website and your own Google Analytics and your data from your social platforms, that will take you forward so much in your measurement journey. And I think using the insights that you gather from that basic piece of work as you evolve your approach to measurement, you'll quickly be able to identify the areas where you feel you do need to invest in additional data because those free services aren't quite getting to where you need to. And then third point, limited skills. Well, Kerry talked earlier about her role as part of AMEC and the diploma that she's done there. We're absolutely not recommending that all of you go and do the AMEC diploma. However, there are so many free webinars and AMEC resources on their website. So we're very much just dipping our toe in the water here of what we're talking to you about. And if there's anybody who's interested in finding out more, then we can help signpost those resources for you. But there's such a host of information out there to get you started.
Actually, just to jump in here, the one that I think is most useful is they've got an integrated evaluation framework, which is basically an online tool that you can fill in from the very beginning. What are your objectives? What are the inputs you're putting into the campaign? What are the outputs? And importantly, what are the outcomes and business impact? So it almost takes you through a journey and challenges you to follow that structure of not just thinking what's the result, but actually what's the impact. And they have a measurement maturity mapper, which is an online quiz. It takes about 10 minutes, and you can really test it. It asks a series of questions and it scores you on, giving you a score in 4 areas out of 100%, and your own personalised report with some recommendations on what you can do to improve. It's something that we use as a team to benchmark ourselves in terms of our clients' campaigns and suggestions. And I think it's actually, as a free resource, it's really useful, and we'll include a link to it at the end of this presentation as well.
Great. And then the final challenge is different stakeholder needs. So part of the craft of measurement really is cutting the data and what it's telling you so that it's appropriate for the audience that you need to communicate with. So I think using dashboards for a C-suite level that give a top-level overview about performance is really good. And when we go on to talk about pace, we can show you how that can work in practice, through to using the more detailed Google Analytics dashboards, which provide the minutiae detail when you really want to deep dive into a campaign and the elements of it that have been most successful. But I think just recognising that different stakeholder need and tailoring the information appropriately is going to add a lot more gravitas and weight to your measurement conversation. So we've talked about some of the hurdles there. I'm going to move now into talking a bit more practically about what the tools are available to help advance your measurement journey. So there is a whole industry that has sprung up around measurement in PR, with a number of tools in the market that look at the whole gamut of media channels, from print to online, through to those that specialise just in an online offer. So we'll just talk through some of these now. So Pulsar is a tool that we have at Speed. We've been using it since 2017, and it's our social listening tool. You can take out a subscription with Pulsar to track listening on your brand on a monthly basis. It starts from about £150 a month, and then that price increases incrementally dependent on the number of profiles and searches that you need. And it's a 12-month commitment. So Gould, it's very much one of the kind of bread and butter tools in the PR industry. It really was born out of media database and monitoring. Many of you may have received cuttings from Gould before. They have evolved their offer basically to allow them to survive in kind of the evolved PR marketplace we now find ourselves in, and they offer a bespoke evaluation product. It's AMEC approved, so it's got that stamp of approval that comes from that industry recognition, and they charge on a campaign basis, so you're looking at about £2,000 per report for 100 clips. We know that you can look at a global dashboard for your brand, which is about £8,000 a month. So I think what's probably coming through here, and can't see your faces, but I'm sure lots of you are shaking your heads and thinking there's absolutely no way I could accommodate these sorts of costs in my budget, and which is exactly how we feel as well. Moving on to TrendKite. So TrendKite has partnered with Cision, who again is a big operator in the PR measurement space, to offer a full communications cloud. Big brands working globally, the likes of Coca-Cola are outsourcing all their monitoring and evaluation through this system. And we've seen examples of EMEA consumer electronics dashboards for brands which are six-figure evaluation campaigns in their own right. So an incredibly sophisticated and robust solution, but absolutely not achievable from a cost point of view for most kind of small to medium brands. I think ultimately, when you've got a marketing and PR budget that's more modest, you need absolutely every pound to work as hard as it can, and spending at this level on evaluation just isn't practical. And then finally, Brandwatch. So this is a social listening analytics tool, similar to Pulsar. Again, they charge an annual subscription rate, and again, the costs are big. So the other challenge with having an outsourced measurement tool like this is that because you pay a larger rate dependent on the accessibility requirements that you have, it can be quite difficult to affordably get that real-time measurement. Now, we work in a marketplace now where real-time marketing is absolutely the norm. The days of laying down a campaign in January and not really thinking about evaluating it till December are absolutely long gone. We need to be evaluating as we go along. Kerry talked earlier about that test and learn approach, and really with the changes that we've got in the political and economic landscape at the moment, and particularly in the UK, we need to be making sure that we're delivering the best work that we can in the environment. So evaluation really should be a daily or weekly piece of work where you are looking in at the plan that you're delivering, looking at areas which are over-indexing in performance and refining and tweaking as you go along to make sure that you are absolutely delivering the best impact you can against the business objectives with the budget that you have available to you. So this brings us to the conundrum that we've been leading to in terms of how on earth do you go about finding a data-driven, robust measurement solution that doesn't cost the earth. Now, the AMEC data suggests that 10% of your marketing budget should be allocated to measurement. So, if we're talking about a £150,000 budget, you're looking at spending 15k. Now, we know the reality is that actually it's normally less than 5%, and normally you're talking 1 or 2% when it comes to PR. So this is the sort of real gap in the market and challenge that we recognised in Speed, in that most of the clients that we're working with, we absolutely want to be able to demonstrate the impact of the work that we're doing, and we absolutely want those insights that allow us to refine campaigns to deliver every day the best solution. But the tools that I've just talked you through, the likes of Pulsar and Trendkite, just weren't going to be viable. Which is why we have been on this measurement journey and we've made our own tool. Because quite simply, nothing else in the marketplace we felt was right and appropriate for our clients. So I'm going to spend a little bit time now just talking to you about PACE, which is that proprietary measurement tool, how we're going to be using it at Speed, and then we're going to just walk you through it so you can see how it works in practice. So the Speed approach to measurement is quite simple really, and it's built on taking all of the learnings that Kerry talked to you about from the AMEC diploma that she's completed and that best practice approach. So at the outset of a campaign, it's very much about setting the right KPIs that absolutely correlate to the business objectives and making sure that every single KPI that is set is absolutely measurable. If you can't measure a KPI, quite simply, you shouldn't be setting it. The PACE measurement framework will then be defined and deployed. It's a completely bespoke model, so it has flexibility that we can support all our clients and all the different nuances of campaigns that we do for them, be it lead generation through to influencer engagement, as well as social media. And then that platform is then set up and deployed so that as a team within Speed and as a client, it's completely transparent. There's anytime access for clients, so you can log in at any point and see actually what's happening here. When we show you the tool in practice, this will make a lot more sense, but it allows us to essentially look at the campaign momentum measures as well as the outputs of the campaign and the outcomes critically that they deliver against the business objectives. So PACE is basically called PACE because it sums up the kind of 4 key facets that we felt were critical for an evaluation model. So performance, assessment, commerciality and evolution. It's an online tool for those of you who are more IT literate than me. It's built on Microsoft Power BI. We wanted to make sure that the tool was completely accessible to all our clients, and this is a really cost-effective platform that already exists. It's industry leading. It meets all of the AMEC best practice principles in measurement and has been benchmarked accordingly. And it's aligned to that commercial impact piece. So we will work with clients to define the most appropriate data sources to support the KPIs we need to track, and then very clearly demonstrate the impact of the work on both the brand and bottom line from those agreed priority data sources. And there's that real-time reporting capability. Now, in terms of the pricing of PACE, talked to you a lot about the other providers out there, and the fact that the cost prohibitive pricing there was one of the major motivators for us to go on this journey of building this tool. PACE is available to all our clients for £180 a month, which against those costs that you've seen previously is much, much smaller. What we're also doing with PACE is all of the money that comes in for use of the tool will go into an innovation pot, which we will then use to evolve the tool as we move forward. Our ambition is that in a couple of years, it will be an API tool, so a lot more of it will be automated. And having this innovation pot will just enable us to make sure that we can evolve the tool in line with changes in AMEC best practice or new data sources coming online that we believe we should be tapping into to make sure that we're continually providing what we believe is a cost-effective best practice solution to our clients. So I think that where that leads us to now is we'd just like to take a few moments to show you what the tool looks like in practice. Kerry's going to walk you through an example here. This is for a B2B focused client. The data is obviously anonymised for obvious reasons, but I think that walkthrough you'll be able to see what the tool is capable of in practice.
Great. So yeah, over to me for show and tell. As Becca mentioned, this is a real example of a campaign that we've been testing pace with. So what it can do is we can select the time period for however long we want to for analysis. This is looking at 10 months worth of results, but that time period can be changed. Where we start is we look at a campaign status in terms of volumes of coverage on a month-by-month basis, reach and total web visits, just as a snapshot of the campaign. This can be this is based on the requirements that this particular client wanted to see, but this can be tailored if there's different priorities. Crucially, where we are particularly proud is that we have been able to overlay bottom line impact directly in one graph with spikes in our PR activity. So what we show on this graph here is that when there has been a report launch, which was a big sort of flagship moment of our campaign, that had a direct link on number of marketing qualified leads into the business. And then, looking over month by month when there's been a second phase, what the impact has been. In this instance, it showed that the first one was more impactful than the second. So again, that applies us with learnings that we can use to take forward into the future. And we can also overlay that with total website visits, as well as MQLs, also looking at how many, what proportion of people are visiting their website. When there has been sort of notable activities, that's again caused what impact that's had in terms of driving specific numbers of people to their website. We've got KPIs here around sales report downloads and general web traffic to a specific page of the website that they were interested in tracking, which we were providing content for. And then KPI tracking, this is a live dashboard that shows how we're delivering against our KPIs as annual totals. So it's a snapshot at a view, which the team will update as and when we secure opportunities or coverage gets secured. It shows here we've got some work to do on thought leadership articles being written, but smashing it elsewhere. So again, that can help us to question, are those KPIs still right? Or do we need to up our focus in certain areas? So it's all sort of all in one place in the dashboard. The brand presence and outtake section is actually a really good way to be able to measure quality of coverage as well as quantity. So it's all very well saying we secured X number of pieces, but actually, are those key messages getting across? Are they being used? And that can actually help to show us if there are certain messages that are resonating more or less than others. So, what we've seen here is that if there's one message that's lagging behind, actually, if that's a point we really need to be getting out there in the market, how do we create opportunities to tell that story and get that message used? We can also track, again, on the back end, what the team do is every time we get a piece of coverage, it gets logged and the coverage is scored with the sentiment, which spokesperson quotes are used, which messages are landing, and then that all just pulls through in real time to this dashboard. So it just means that it's all the information is there in one place. It can be looked at in real time. It's not just about sending over Excel spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentations. Everything lives online through the dashboard, and we're measuring, as I say, consistently measuring the quality of coverage as well as the quantity, and making sure that our campaign is staying on track. We've got a section there for outputs and media types. We can track based on the tiering of media, what volumes of coverage we're getting. And then there's a specific section here around digital impact. So for this one, we're looking after their social media channels. So we're looking at the number of impressions, new followers, and engagement rates across organic and paid elements of the campaign. It's also worth noting that there's an input section as well. So we've got, this can be completely tailored, but it recaps, again, for stakeholders, an overview, the objectives and the main messages. And again, this gives us a chance to be able to provide commentary specifically on that campaign and where we focus in the future. So again, so in terms of sharing it more widely, there is some narrative that we can provide. The way this is shared is through in two options, either through an online login through Microsoft Power BI, which is included is a login for the team as part of the subscription for PACE, but equally for ease of sharing around the organisation, we can also automate PDF reports that can be shared on a regular basis as well. So two options depending on the needs of the campaign. So if we go back to the summary of what we wanted to cover off today. So yeah, in a nutshell, think creatively with your metrics. So what can you track? Should you prioritise, because you can't measure everything, and really focus those on which ones map back to your objectives, and then continue to learn and reprioritise. So look at continually review your KPIs. Do they need to be changed? And reprioritise your campaign based on what's working and where attention needs to be focused. So we'll move on to questions shortly, and we'd invite you, actually, if you haven't already, if you do have any questions, to enter them into the comment box. We'll wait to see what flows through. In the meantime, there is a question that I've been asked by somebody who wasn't able to attend today, so we'll cover that one off first. Is around the sort of customization of the tool, and obviously we've shown an example there of one version of PACE that's been developed for one client, but how much can it be tailored? And I think that's something that we're really keen to explore and to work with the clients that we work with, because actually that might be that we can, because it's all completely controlled by us, and it's something that we can add things in on the back end. There's no reason why, if you've got a specific total number of customers, for example, that you want to track, that could be added in, and we're really open to making this as a bespoke tool as possible, depending on what you need.
And then our client who wanted to attend today but wasn't able to, just asked us around what we see as the future of PR measurement. I think future gazing can sometimes be challenging, but if you look at the changes in the PR industry in the last 5 years and the convergence with digital, I think it would be right to assume that the expectation of PR measurement will continue to be that it gets to a level of where digital measurement is. There's obviously so many free data sources available, and there's constantly new platforms coming out that allow you to measure different niche things. So for us, that's why this innovation fund is really critical, to allow us to continue to evolve the tool to meet that change within the industry. Just looking, we don't seem to have got any other questions to answer at the moment. So we've put on here our email address, so if there are any questions that come to mind following today, please do just drop us an email. Kerry and I love talking about measurements, so we'd be very happy to talk to you on the phone about any particular questions, and we've also got a bit of an insight piece coming from us too.
Yeah, so this is a white paper that's going to be published on our website, measuring impact section. So this video will live on there longer term as well. So if there's any colleagues or contacts that you think might benefit from today, please send them that way, and this webinar will live there for, I'd like to say forever, but PR measurement is changing so fast that we probably need to be updated at some point. And as I mentioned, AMEC also is a really helpful place for more resources, and I can't rate it highly enough for the measurement maturity mapper and the integrated evaluation framework. So if you've not seen those yet, have a look. So all completely free and a useful starting point for being able to assess where you're at now. So I suppose without further ado, we'll let you get on with the rest of your day, and thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having more conversations with you about pace in the future.
Yes, thank you.